You can find any number of textbooks and videos on YouTube that explain the difference between some and any. So why am I making a video about it? It's because many of those textbooks and videos get it wrong.
We can say that we use some in positive sentences and any in negative and question sentences.
Well, we can say that, but how true is it? The same teachers who tell you that we use any in questions will go to a restaurant or a cafe and say,
"Could I have some coffee, please?"
They would never say, "Could I have any coffee?" in that situation. Even when teachers do try to take into account what they call exceptions to the rule, their explanations are often not 100% satisfactory.
Can you pick up some coffee on your way home? We use some in questions when we're pretty sure the answer will be yes.
That implies that we could use any if we weren't fairly sure that the answer would be yes. But that's not correct. We wouldn't say, "Can you pick up any coffee on your way home?" And if a beggar in the street says, "Can you give me some money?" the answer from most people is probably no. So we can't say we only use some when we expect the answer to be yes. Here's another explanation that doesn't quite work.
It's silly to go traveling without any money in the bank. This sentence has a positive structure, but we're talking about the lack of money, which is a negative feeling or a negative idea.
Well, there's some truth in that. Any is often used in negative contexts. But suppose I said, "It's good to go travelling without any companions." Here I'm presenting the lack of companions as a positive thing. And what about something like "any port in a storm"? It means that when things get rough, any safe place is good. Any doesn't have any negative connotations here at all. That video does go on to say that we use any when it doesn't matter which one, but it mainly applies that to any followed by a singular noun.
We can use any in affirmative sentences, and commonly with a singular countable noun, as a way to say it doesn't matter which one. You can take any road going south. It doesn't matter which road you take, it's not important.
What I want to suggest in this video is that any always carries the idea of it doesn't matter which one, or which ones, or which part of a bigger whole, while some always carries the idea of something specific or particular. In other words, some means something different from any. Broadly speaking, we use some to indicate something specific, and we use any when it doesn't matter which particular one or which particular ones or which particular part of something. Let's take an example. If we say some friends, we're talking about a subset of all friends, part of a larger group or entity. It's specific. But if we say any friends, we aren't talking about a particular group or entity. It could be these ones or these ones or these ones. It doesn't matter. This difference in meaning explains why we find some more often in affirmative contexts and any in interrogative and negative contexts. In affirmative contexts, we're normally talking about something specific. He has some good friends. We're talking about a particular group of friends here. We may know their names or recognize their faces. He doesn't have any friends. It doesn't matter which particular one or ones you pick out, none of them are his friends.
I'd like some coffee.
The speaker has a concrete image of what they want. They know that coffee exists in the world and they want a cup of it.
We don't have any coffee.
It doesn't matter what coffee we're talking about, Colombian or Kenyan, whole beans or ground, percolated or instant, whichever one you pick, we haven't got it. So we can see why some is often connected with affirmative sentences. We're usually talking about some specific, concrete example, and that's what some expresses. And very often in questions and negatives, it doesn't matter which particular example we're talking about. And that's what any expresses. But what really matters is not whether the sentence is affirmative, interrogative, or negative. What matters is whether the speaker has something specific in mind, or whether the speaker isn't thinking about a particular case. The sentence applies to all cases. Let's look at some examples.
I'd like some coffee, please.
Could I have some coffee, please?
One of these sentences is a statement and one is a question, but there's no real difference in the way we think about coffee in these two examples. There's a range of possibilities in the speaker's mind: tea, lemonade, wine, etc. And the speaker wants one particular thing: coffee. We have to use some here. Any would be wrong. But suppose the waiter asks,
"What kind of coffee would you like?"
The answer could be,
Oh, any coffee will be fine.
"It doesn't matter which particular coffee you bring me, Colombian, Kenyan, Kilimanjaro, any coffee will do." And again, some would be wrong here. It was an easy question, and any of the students could have answered it. It was quite a difficult question, but some of the students could answer it. This is a good example of the difference in meaning between some and any. In the first sentence, it doesn't matter which particular student you choose. Whichever one you choose, they could answer it. So in effect, they could all answer it. But in the second sentence, only some of the students could answer. So not all of them could. In that sense, some means a few or a part of the whole. Some guy came up to me in the street and asked me for money. This is an interesting case because on the surface of it, some guy seems to refer to a random person, but we don't say any guy. Why not? It's because the speaker has a concrete, specific image in their mind. It's not just any guy. It's a particular person who did something specific, coming up to the speaker and asking for money. Can you see how we use some to indicate something specific and any to express the idea that it doesn't matter which one or which ones or which part of the whole? Okay, now you try. Think about whether the speaker has something concrete and specific in mind, or whether it doesn't matter which particular one or which ones or which part of the whole.
Please could you get oranges when you go to the shop?
I don't think rock band will ever be more popular than the Beatles.
Why do people prefer the Rolling Stones to the Beatles?
If student has a question, please put your hand up.
Of my teachers are good, but there are that I don't like.
People don't like jazz.
In all these cases, we don't have a choice. Either some is correct or any is correct. But there are also cases where we could use either some or any. For example, do you have some money? Do you have any money? Let me know if you need some help. Let me know if you need any help. Here, the speaker has a choice between some and any. They probably don't think about it consciously, but somewhere in the back of their mind they're making the distinction we've been talking about all the way through here. In conclusion then, the standard textbook explanation that we use some in positive sentences or when we have a positive feeling or expectation, and any in questions and negative sentences or when we have a negative feeling or expectation, works a lot of the time, but not all the time. If you want to get a fuller understanding of how to use these words, you probably need to understand the difference in meaning between them.